Idaho is a scenic state which attracts new residents and businesses into its borders each year. Idaho offers individuals, families, and businesses an excellent environment to pursue personal and commercial activities. The appeal of its communities fosters an atmosphere of growth in residential real estate markets, which provide necessary products and services to both those who are new to our state and those who have lived here all their lives. The information in this video program is provided for the purposes of keeping Idaho's communities and its real estate markets strong.
Over the past few years, there's been an increase in fraud in real estate transactions all across the United States, more specifically in mortgage lending transactions. Unfortunately, Idaho is not immune from this growing trend. Simply put, fraud usually occurs in the mortgage industry when someone uses misrepresentation, misstatement, or even omission in the mortgage lending process. Growth in the real estate industry does not necessarily mean that there will be an increase in mortgage fraud across the market. As long as real estate and mortgage professionals are aware of some indicators of fraud, incidents of mortgage fraud can be reduced. By identifying and reporting mortgage fraud, Idaho's real estate industries and mortgage lending industries can remain healthy and productive.
The following scenario typifies one form of mortgage fraud made through misrepresentations and omissions during the process of applying for a mortgage loan. This is a common form of mortgage fraud.
Okay, Scott, I've got all your debts loaded in. Now tell me, what is yours and Donna's combined annual income?
$137,000.
Scott forgot to say he pays $800 a month in child support for his 7-year-old daughter.
Forgot about that.
You always forget about that. Do we need to add that to our debts?
Well, yes, it probably should be included, but let's see how the numbers work out without the child support before we put it in. Okay, let me get your income in. All right, well, it looks a little off.
What do you mean off? Don't we qualify?
Well, hold on now. Everything's all right. We're just a little off on your debt ratios. First of all, I think we should leave out your child support for sure. And now, even with that, we still need about $8,000 more in income. Is there any income you forgot to tell me about?
No, we're both on salary and we don't even get overtime.
Well, do either of you get bonuses?
No, seriously, $137,000, that's it. Look, Carol said that you'd make sure this loan went through.
Okay, and we will. Let's see now. Will either of you be getting a raise anytime soon?
Not really. I mean, nothing that either one of us knows about.
Well, I bet you probably will. I mean, let's face it, with the economy the way it is right now, I'm sure you will, okay? Let's just say, Scott, you'll get $6,000 more this year, and Donna, you'll get $3,500 more this year. You know, that sounds realistic, right? Don't you think?
Is it okay to just guess like that?
Donna, he's just trying to help us out. I mean, that's why Carol sent us to him. He's supposed to be creative.
I'm just here to help you guys.
And we appreciate your help. It's just that we've never done this before.
I understand. Okay, that's it. Those numbers work. Now, let's take a look at your credit report that just came up on the screen here. Oh, this looks great. You guys have great credit.
We just bought a car. It's probably not on there yet.
Well, if it's not on the credit report, then we don't have to disclose it. Looks like we've got a preliminary approval. Congratulations, guys.
That's great, Jim.
I can't believe we're actually going to get a home.
Now, you guys go ahead and fill out this application at home and bring it back to me in the morning. I'll call Carol and I'll give her the good news. Oh, and don't forget to include those raises in your income. That's $9,500 total.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Carol was right. He really knows how to get a loan through.
Sure seems like it.
Hi, Carol. It's Jim over at the loan office. Got Donna and Scott approved. Yeah, no problem. Hey, glad to help.
Real estate licensees who become aware of this type of misrepresentation should report the misrepresentation to their designated broker, to the Idaho Department of Finance, or to the Idaho Real Estate Commission.
Misstatements made in the mortgage loan application represent a majority of all incidents of reported mortgage fraud.
People who engage in this kind of fraud could be consumers who are desperate to acquire a piece of property, or possibly real estate professionals who are too eager to close a transaction.
Along with misstatements of income or omissions of liabilities, other misrepresentations of assets and employment are typical in loan application fraud.
Some types of application fraud go beyond completing an application to qualify for a loan. Making a misrepresentation about the intended use of a property also constitutes fraud.
Well, Ann and Carlton, I think this home will certainly suit your requirements. And since you're maintaining your home in Sun Valley, I think this would be a beautiful place for you to stay here in Boise while you're visiting your children and your grandchildren, until you move here permanently in 3 years.
Oh, yes, I think this certainly would work as our second home. We'd like to make an offer on it.
Oh, great. Give me a minute to call the lender and find out the particulars on your loan. Then we can write up a contract as soon as we get back to my office, okay?
Sure, thanks.
Carlton, why did you say we were going to use this place as our second home? You know I don't want to live in this neighborhood. And besides, I thought we were going to use it as a rental.
I told you we're not going to live here, Anne, but it's a good rental property. And we'll be $500 ahead every month after we pay the mortgage with what the tenants will be paying us.
So we'll get a better deal on the loan if we say we're going to live here. We won't have to put as much down, and we'll get a lower interest rate as well. Aren't we the smart real estate investors?
By misrepresenting property use, a borrower may be able to reduce the interest rate on his mortgage loan and may actually be able to reduce the required amount of any down payment.
You should talk to your consumers about the risks they are taking. You should also talk to your designated broker. And remember, your best defense is a written disclosure to the actual loan underwriter.
Property use misrepresentation can commonly occur when the borrower owns more than one property or is purchasing a second home or investment property.
This represents a double contract because there are actually two agreements. There's one in writing, and there's the other one that's a wink and a nudge between the originator and the two consumers.
According to federal agencies, many failed mortgages are the result of fraud conducted by real estate professionals and mortgage industry professionals. This is often called fraud for profit and can appear as a legitimate mortgage transaction.
So you got the addresses for the comps. Great. Now, with the recent sales prices, you should be able to support the appraisals on these other properties. Well, we may have to ladder a couple of the transactions so we can use their sales value as a future comp. Sure, we can do it like that. Talk to you soon.
He's on board then.
Oh yeah, he can get the values we need. Now, we need to get those purchase agreements done and the applications.
I have the purchase agreements written out. We just need the buyers to sign. How many people did you say you have in this investment club?
Right now, the 5 that I gave you for the purchase agreements. They're ready to go, thankfully. It's about time I get out of those loans. I've still got 2 more purchase agreements to make, but the investors are hot to spread the word on the deal we've got going here.
And who wouldn't be? I mean, they're getting 15% cash back on these purchases. We just need Jim to get the financing, and then we can get started on that other project.
These are all good credit borrowers, Brandon. Now, the only thing we need to seal the deal are those employment verifications from Tom's investment company. So, Tom, are any of the investors going to live on the properties?
No. Once they get assigned back to me, I'll turn them around as quickly as I can, or I'll rent them out if I have to.
I was just asking in case we need to do any other loans for your company. I mean, all of these are being submitted as primary residences. Oh, well, we might have to juggle some of the information to do future loans for them.
Don't worry so much about them, Jim. Worry about me. If I can't get into that project soon, you're going to lose a whole lot of income.
Jim's got it under control, Tom. We're all going to make this work.
Elements of fraud in the preceding scenario included misstatements about income and employment, the use of straw borrowers, and the use of overvaluation of property in order to obtain cash through the closing of the transaction.
The real estate professional involved in this transaction can lose his license to do business, face civil penalty fines, and may even face federal charges.
This type of fraud for profit can be used to support illicit investment schemes, money laundering, and even drug-related activity.
These types of mortgage fraud teams have been operating in every corner of the state of Idaho. Fraud for housing may not seem as devious as fraud for profit, but it is fraud nonetheless.
I just don't get the changes in the purchase agreement, Jim. Now I have to pay an extra $20,000 for the home? How is this good for me?
Carlton, you're missing the point. Loan programs have changed. I can't get you approved at 100%. But since the property appraises so high, I can get you a loan for the full amount you needed.
But with a loan this size, don't I have to come in with a down payment? I just don't have that kind of money. And I'm not paying this much for that house.
This is just a paperwork thing, Carlton. Listen, this is going to work out better for you. You only have to come in with the financing that I'll get for you. And I'm even getting you a better interest rate because the loan to value is less.
But you still haven't told me how this is going to work.
It's simple. We'll just use some money the seller has on deposit to verify that you have money to close. And at closing, it's just a ledger entry. I have it all taken care of.
Well, we've been doing business together a long time, Jim. And if you say it's going to work this way, I'll trust you. But please, no more surprises.
This is all we have left to do. I'll see you at closing.
Hey, Jim. Can I speak with you for a sec? I have a couple of questions on Mrs. Larson's loans.
Whatever you need, Jen.
I was going over the applications for her purchases, and I thought, well, this isn't right, is it? She's applying for 2 properties. One is owner-occupied, and the other is a second home.
I guess that's right, Jen. That's what she told me.
But we just refinanced her primary residence last week, that beautiful home she bought last year. Why would she be buying this duplex as an owner-occupied home? And the second home is in the same city as the duplex.
Like I said, that's what she told me when I took the applications. Besides, it doesn't matter. Both of those files are going to different lenders anyway. They'll never even know. And if she needs a letter of explanation for the purchase of the duplex, I can always write a note that says she and her husband are separated and they're renting the property until it sells. I'll bet she already has a renter. I'll give her a call.
But this doesn't
Hey,
seem...
don't worry about it. I'll take care of it from here.
This is a classic double contract. The purchase price is manipulated to create the illusion of a down payment for this consumer.
Fraud for housing usually occurs only when the borrower attempts to obtain a property through fraudulent misstatements or misrepresentations.
Fraud for housing can also involve the use of falsified documents like leases, income statements, and gift letters.
The penalties for fraud for housing are the same as those for fraud for profit. Those who engage in this type of misrepresentation and financial fraud face both civil and criminal fines and penalties. Mortgage fraud can take many forms. Asking questions to identify information, understanding the elements of the transaction, and getting to know all the parties related to the transaction are just some of the ways that you can help identify mortgage fraud.
Ms. Carter, I've reviewed the contract and I find it to be a very good offer. It's full price and the buyer isn't asking you to pay closing costs. They want to close in a month.
Well, sounds good so far.
And they want to do an inspection. This is absolutely normal, of course. I know you just had your home inspected before placing it on the market, so...
That's right. And their inspector shouldn't find anything wrong with my house.
Good. Now here's something a little different. The buyer is listed as Bob and Jane Doe and/or assigns. What this means is the buyer could assign this contract to anyone, their neighbor, their LLC, whatever.
Why do you think they'd want to do that?
There are some legitimate reasons to do it, but in some cases it can be used in the process of mortgage fraud. We'll need to clarify this in order to proceed. Sometimes the property can become tied up and at the last minute the deal can fall through due to underwriting conditions. So I suggest that we write a counteroffer and remove the assignment clause.
All right, let's do that.
Okay.
Mortgage lenders may want to look more closely at the accuracy of a property valuation when a purchase contract is assigned. Sellers may want to speak to their real estate professional when they encounter a purchase contract assignment.
The following red flags may indicate loan fraud is present in any given transaction. Did the buyer get money back at closing? Do the recording fees charged match up with the actual documents? Do all junior mortgages match the purchase and sales agreement? Are there any broker bonuses and do they match the actual amount of the down payment? Are the sales commissions abnormal or are they based on the loan amount instead of the purchase price? Are you being instructed to have the title company leave something off the closing statement, to not record something, or to record documents after the escrow has closed? Are you being asked to use an appraisal that has already been completed? Are you seeing sweat equity with different value for different buyers? And finally, was sweat work performed that seems to be beyond the capacity of your borrower?
The results of mortgage fraud may mean losses to financial institutions and financial markets, but beyond that, mortgage fraud can have a negative impact on the communities where the fraud occurs.
We have 2 small boys, and we have been transferred many times, and we thought, this is the house that we will stay in, hopefully for 5 to 10 years. This will be the home that our children will remember. This is our resting place. We have come home. After we'd been in the house about 6 months, we started noticing some odd things that we couldn't explain. We would see houses that the for sale sign would come down, but no one would move into the house. Packages would appear on the front porch, mail would be in the mailbox, cars would come and go, but no one was actually living there. One of the major signs that we noticed was there would be no trash pickup. There'd be different cars coming and going, a lot of dealer tags, a lot of out-of-state tags. People would be there for a week or 2 and then disappear. We decided to have our own neighborhood meeting, get people together, let's meet our neighbors, let's find out what's going on, let's see what the problems are, why aren't these properties being maintained? So we called a neighborhood meeting. We also began to see some foreclosures, and we became very concerned about that. We became very isolated and very suspicious and just had a negative outlook. It took over everything about us. We had gang fights. Several times, Gwinnett County Police were called because these gangs of teenagers who were all living in these rental properties they were not the fraudsters, but they were the people that were renting the property from the fraudsters. They were the people that were being attracted to these properties. I became reclusive. I wouldn't greet new neighbors until I was able to check into their background, because I didn't trust anyone who moved into this neighborhood. It changed the kind of person I was. It has changed me irrevocably. I will always carry this with me. This house was known as the group home. The detectives had to actually batter the door in when they searched. It has since been used as a drug storage house and is now vacant. This house, the tenant was involved with one of the major drug gangs in Gwinnett County. The tenant in this house printed counterfeit checks in his basement. I will never feel safe and secure about a neighborhood that I move into. I will always be afraid that this is following me.
Some of the more common mortgage fraud schemes include illegal property flipping, where a property is purchased falsely appraised at a higher value and then quickly sold. Silent seconds, where the buyer of a property borrows the down payment from a seller through the issuance of a non-disclosed second mortgage. Nominee loans and straw buyer loans, where the identity of the actual borrower is concealed through the use of a nominee. Fictitious or stolen identity schemes, where the fictitious or stolen identity of another person is used in the loan application. Inflated appraisals, where an appraiser acts in collusion with a borrower or industry professional to provide a misleading appraisal report to a lender. And equity skimming, where an investor may use a straw borrower, a false income documentation, or other false credit information to obtain a loan and take equity out of a property through a transaction. Mortgage fraud is not always easy to spot. By knowing the indicators of mortgage fraud and common mortgage fraud schemes, you can protect yourself and also help stop mortgage fraud in Idaho.
With a positive effort by Idaho's real estate and mortgage professionals, our markets can continue to thrive, all the while offering consumers access to healthy financial services. And thanks for watching.